She was never one to be tied down.
She was a very free-spirited person.
She had a lot of love to give.
Just this great ray of sunshine.
Until it was suddenly snuffed out.
It's a homicide. Multiple gunshots. Multiple spent rounds.
There was a puddle of blood around her head.
I was in denial. It's like, nope, it can't be.
Your heart goes out to these people.
Everything points to a love triangle gone wrong.
She wasn't really fully ready to commit to one person.
What is your report?
That's someone that she wasn't going to take serious.
We need to call the police.
Oh, it's fine. Let's just clean it up.
That's a recipe for disaster.
But which of the men in her life had pulled the trigger?
I said, what do you mean, Papa? He says, he's a shot.
I would have never thought he would have done that.
That was crazy.
April 30th, 2020. It's a Thursday morning in Houston, Texas, the Lone Star State's largest city.
The metropolitan area is between 7 and 8 million people.
A lot of people are migrating here because of job opportunities.
We got all kind of commerce coming and going.
It's a great place to where even if you're not from here, you can find your place and feel at home.
But at the Houston home of Judy Rodriguez, she spent that Thursday morning becoming increasingly worried about her daughter, 33-year-old Darlene Solis.
Wednesday, I texted her, didn't hear anything back from her. Thursday, I messaged her and I said, are you okay? When she didn't respond, that really worried me.
Darlene was very connected to friends and family, would text her mom multiple times a day.
So I started making phone calls to her friends and say, hey, have you all heard from Darlene?
Hello? Hey, Diana, this is Darlene's mom. When's the last time you spoke with her?
Nobody had heard anything.
Really? No, this isn't like her.
Anxiety mounting, Judy calls her ex-husband, Darlene's stepfather, for help.
He's a sheriff's deputy, and I said, hey, I haven't heard from Darlene for 2 days, and none of her friends have heard from her.
Will you please go to her apartment and see if she's there? Thank you.
Darlene's stepfather agrees to head over, but asks his ex-wife to also contact the Houston police.
He told me to go ahead and call 911 because that was not his jurisdiction.
Houston Police, what are you reporting?
Yes, I was calling so you could do a welfare check on my daughter.
He needed, backup.
Do you know how long it'll be before your husband gets there?
He said he's 5 minutes out.
The Houston police are still en route. But Darlene's stepdad doesn't wait.
He turned on his body camera and had the apartment manager unlock Darlene's door.
With his training, his instinct, he knew that something was wrong.
"33-year-old Darlene Solis grew up in a tight-knit and loving family.
We had birthday parties at the house, Halloween parties, Christmas, we all got together.
She loved her family. She was the oldest of 5 siblings, and she was really close to them.
And her loyalty didn't stop there.
She has the biggest heart ever. She cares about people, and she's there for all of her friends.
They would go to Darlene if they needed someone to talk to, a shoulder to cry on.
She would always be the one to reach out to all of our friends and see how they're doing. She would make us dinner. She loved just catering to her friends.
In fact, Darlene spent her days and nights catering to almost everyone.
She started taking college courses for being a respiratory therapist and started working a side job as a bartender. And money was just coming in for her. So she stopped going to school.
She was there for years. So she built relationships with other people and her regulars and just the community.
When Darlene wasn't behind the bar, chances were she was off on an adventure.
Traveling brought joy to her. She traveled to Japan, she traveled to Vietnam. Even if it was a road trip, she would always make the time to go and travel.
And Darlene almost always had someone to share in her adventures.
Darlene was a very free-spirited person. She had a lot of male friends.
One was a construction worker named Corey Campbell.
It began through a mutual friend. They had met up at a bar for friends to get together, and then from there they started talking.
So you're a bartender?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can see that. You're really good with people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They hit it off. They seemed like a very good match.
They dated for the next 3 years.
She was happy they did have a good relationship.
He was a great guy, very respectful.
But in the end, it didn't last.
He was on the road all the time, and it seemed like that was hindering their relationship.
And when a new job took Corey to Salt Lake City, Darlene moved on to a man named Marcus Jennings.
Hey, babe.
She said that he was very nice. He treated her so well.
How was that day?
Better now.
And she ended up really enjoying his company. They spent a lot of time together.
I've never in my life seen her so happy.
But now, Darlene is missing. And her stepfather, a deputy sheriff, has gone to do a welfare check at her apartment.
Once he got in, it was not trashed. Didn't look like anything had been stolen.
However, Darlene's apartment is a crime scene.
Central, this is 42 David 24. I need HPD to be notified to meet me for a DOA. Apartment 110. It's my daughter.
He found Darlene dead of multiple gunshot wounds.
It's a homicide.
Darlene Solis bounced back with a new man named Marcus Jennings.
When Darlene started to date Marcus, you could tell she was happy. I've never in my life seen her so happy.
He was just always nice to her. I liked the way he treated her.
But their budding romance would be a short one. Darlene's stepfather, a Harris County Sheriff's deputy, has found his stepdaughter dead inside her apartment.
It's my daughter. Multiple gunshots. Multiple escape routes.
He'd been in that situation thousands of times. He's responded to phone calls from everything from petty theft to, murders and aggravated assaults.
But this case is so different because this isn't some random patrol call for this deputy. This is his daughter.
When the Houston police arrive at the apartment, Darlene's stepfather turns the scene over to them.
This deputy was struggling with the scene of his daughter and all the emotions that takes place.
When police and EMTs enter the apartment, they confirm that Darlene is dead.
There are no vital signs.
The body was exhibiting clear signs of rigor mortis.
This had happened maybe 2 days prior.
And now it's up to the homicide detectives to piece together precisely what happened.
As you walk through the apartment, a typical homicide detective will allow the scene to talk to them. Are there items missing? Is there forced entry? Are there broken windows? Is this a disorganized scene? What's out of place? Was there an argument?
There doesn't appear to be any signs of a struggle or a robbery.
Things are not missing. Things are not forced into.
Whoever had killed her, it looked like they kind of caught her by surprise. She was just in the bathroom. Looked like she was making herself up to go somewhere.
Her body was positioned on her back, facing up, and in a position where it had seen that she had fallen and had remained in that fallen position since the time of her death.
She had been shot multiple times with a .40 caliber handgun.
There were 4 shell casings that were recovered from the crime scene.
They also find a .40 caliber handgun.
The gun was found under the bed, so whoever killed her leaves the murder weapon there on the scene.
All indications, standing out from the outside looking in, would indicate that this would be somebody that Darlene knew. That this was somebody who was in the apartment, did not have to force their way in.
But who? The crime scene provides a possible clue.
There was a blow-up mattress that was out in the living room.
There was luggage by the side of the bed.
But if someone had been staying with Darlene, where are they now? And did they have anything to do with her death?
Hoping for more information, the detectives turn to Darlene's stepfather, who has just gotten off the phone with her mother.
My ex-husband calls me back and says, we found her. She's here. And it was kind of like a relief, like, okay, good, she's there. And he tells me there's a deputy that's gonna go pick you up at the house and bring you over here. And it's like, oh, okay. And then after I hung up with him, I'm like, wait a minute. And I knew she was gone.
While Darlene's mother waits for a deputy to drive her to the crime scene, her ex-husband fills the detectives in on what he knows.
You just got to feel for somebody like this. Police officers are people too. And to come across that kind of scene, and this has to be so horrific, it's hard to put into words.
We're gonna need to ask you a few questions.
I understand.
His mind pretty much shut off and turned into his professional role as officer investigator to figure out what he needed to do to make sure that the investigation and everything was done correctly from the start to make sure that whoever did it was held accountable.
Kudos to him, because it shows that the strength that some of these people have to draw upon in a situation like that.
Do you know of anyone who'd want to do this to Darlene?
No, she started dating this new guy named Marcus.
It's in that beginning stage where people are enthralled with each other.
How many cases have police covered where a boyfriend got jealous and killed their girlfriend?
And according to her stepfather, Marcus may have had reason to be jealous.
She also has an ex named Corey Campbell.
Do you think he had something to do with it?
I really don't know, but she did go to visit him last week.
Darlene had flown out to Utah to see Corey.
She took the opportunity to fly out there, and then they drove back to Houston together.
Detectives investigating the murder of Darlene Solis have learned that she had recently flown to Salt Lake City to visit her ex-boyfriend, Corey Campbell.
Corey was out of town working, and since she did love traveling, just going anywhere, she took the opportunity to fly out there.
She'd gone out and spent a few days in Salt Lake City with Corey.
And this new guy, Marcus, did he know she went to see him?
I really don't know.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
But there may be someone who can help. Darlene's friend, Melissa Hoffman, who arrived at the apartment shortly before Darlene's stepfather.
Our other friend, Diana, reached out to Darlene and didn't hear anything from her, which was weird. So she called me and asked me to go to Darlene's apartment because I was closer to see if she's home and if she's okay. And then her dad ended up showing up.
402 Okay. I need this hallway clean, please.
I knew something bad happened in that apartment.
Melissa, go over there, please. Melissa, go over there. Please go over there. Please go.
But it wasn't confirmed to me until the medical examiners came out and I overheard them say her time of death. And then that's when I realized that she was gone.
My condolences to you, okay? We're gonna work this hard, and we're gonna do everything we can to find out what happened.
The detectives start by asking Melissa about Darlene's ex-boyfriend, Corey.
How long were they together?
I want to say like maybe 3 years, on and off. They would argue and then they would get back on good terms again. He would bribe her with gifts and stuff to try to get back on her good side all the time.
He was a manipulator. He was one of those that thought that he could always fix the situation with buying gifts or sending a dozen roses to her work.
But then it always, go back to the same thing.
He was displaying jealous behavior.
For her to be controlled by someone wasn't the ideal relationship she would want to be in.
So it's just not been a very stable relationship.
When someone does that, when they try to shower you with gifts, none of these gifts, none of the showering that I'm showing is helping whatever we broke up for in the first place, right? This person is not fixing the issue at hand. It's the smoke and mirrors.
Finally, Melissa says, a few months ago, Darlene told Corey enough is enough.
She had told him that they were over.
But she hadn't cut him out of her life completely.
She wanted to stay friends. That's who she was.
So Melissa says it wasn't surprising when Darlene told her she was going off to Salt Lake to see Corey.
She flew out to Utah to spend time with him.
But while she was there, Corey explained that he had lost his job and was going back home to Houston.
She allowed him to come back into her home, and she still allowed him to stay there while he didn't have a job or got back on his feet. I didn't think it was a good idea, but Darlene was a very strong-minded person. She was going to do what she wanted to do.
However, there was one complication. Darlene's new boyfriend, Marcus.
They've been seeing each other for a couple months.
And did the ex know about him?
I think he knew about him. Marcus knew that Darlene was going to Utah. And when they came back, he knew that Corey was moving in to Darlene's apartment while he got back on his feet.
But according to Melissa, Marcus had no reason to be jealous of Corey.
Darlene wasn't staying at the apartment with Corey. She was staying with Marcus.
It's definitely sounding like a love triangle situation.
Or is it? Because according to Melissa, Corey and Marcus weren't the only men in Darlene's life.
There was another person who she'd also been dating.
What is his name?
I don't know his real name.
She only knows that people call him JR.
Detectives investigating the murder of Darlene Solis have uncovered 3 possible suspects. Her ex, Corey Campbell, her new boyfriend, Marcus Jennings, and another man that her friends only know as JR.
Darlene met JR while she was out one night with her friends, and they hit it off right away while they were out. They exchanged phone numbers and I guess just kept in contact.
According to Melissa, it was more of a fling than a full-blown relationship.
He was very young. He was way younger than her, so that's someone that she wasn't going to take serious, but just kind of wanted him as a friend because she did enjoy his company.
But now that Darlene is dead, the detectives have to wonder, had JR wanted more from the relationship?
Perhaps JR got spurned.
Naturally, the police are going to look into who's JR? Who is this person? What's his story?
Darlene! Darlene!
But before they can, one of the three men in Darlene's life arrives on the scene.
Marcus showed up because he had been told something had happened to Darlene.
He heard nothing from her, and that was just so uncharacteristic of Darlene that a lot of people started getting concerned.
At least that's what Marcus tells the detectives.
Just tell me everything. I'll ask you some questions that may be uncomfortable, but we want to find out.
He's very cooperative. He's willing to tell him anything.
However, he mostly wanted to tell them about Darlene's complicated relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Corey Campbell.
He got fired from his work, so
He got let go from his job.
she came back and she said she's not letting him stay until he found a fix.
Darlene had a kind heart, and she felt sorry for her ex.
She just letting him stay there.
I didn't really. She said that's what she was doing.
Marcus said that Darlene more or less moved in with him while Corey crashed at her place.
She would stay with Marcus, and then she would just go home, grab some clothes, shower, get ready, and then leave again.
She said she wasn't trying to work nothing out with him no more.
Still, Marcus admits he wasn't crazy about the arrangement. But he also knew not to push it.
It was still a newer relationship. He felt that he and Darlene were not at that point yet where he should or could dictate kind of what her choices were.
I didn't want to ask too much.
But Marcus says that the more Darlene told him about Corey, the less he liked the situation.
She said that he was trying to argue.
They're arguing? Okay.
According to Marcus, Corey had been trying to get Darlene to take him back.
But he says Darlene wasn't interested.
She was just feeling sorry for him.
And he says as the tension grew, he urged her not to go back to her place.
He said, I'll go buy you clothes, I'll go buy you makeup. You don't have to go back.
But according to Marcus, Darlene wouldn't listen.
She said, that's my place. I'm going and leaving when I want. She was a little hard-headed as well.
According to Marcus, he last saw Darlene on Tuesday, roughly 48 hours before police found her body.
She stayed with me.
Okay.
I brought her back to Tuesday around noon.
He also says they made plans for her to come over to his place again that night.
I called her probably around 3 or 4 that day, and then she said, "I might get ready," and did actually not answer the phone no more.
Marcus says he didn't think anything bad had happened to Darlene, just that she was avoiding him.
He's like, I figured maybe she changed her mind and decided to stay with him.
I really didn't.
But now the question for detectives is whether or not Marcus is giving them the whole story.
He answers all the questions, and so that in and of itself doesn't eliminate a suspect, but I mean, it's a good sign. Thank you, Marcus.
Then, after talking to Marcus, the detectives try to track down the third man in Darlene's life.
Darlene's friend Melissa had JR's number, so detectives were able to reach him by phone.
It turns out his name is Joey Reed.
Hello?
Look, your name came up during our investigation, and I guess you're an acquaintance of Darlene.
Yes, sir.
He describes his relationship with Darlene as a casual one.
It was like more of a friends with benefits type of relationship. Just nothing so serious, but we're just having fun and day by day.
JR's account aligns with what Darlene's friend Melissa told detectives about the relationship.
Although JR says he hadn't seen Darlene in over a week on account of the Corey situation.
What did she tell you about that?
Basically, that she was just trying to get rid of him.
According to JR, Corey was bad news.
JR described Corey as this toxic person.
Y'all said, "That's crazy."
Hey, you can't leave me. You hear me? You just can't.
Joey Reed, who says he was only casually dating Darlene Solis, has told the detectives investigating her murder that Darlene had problems with her ex-boyfriend, Corey Campbell.
She mentioned that, man, he's crazy. He'll knock on doors, keep knocking.
It just wasn't like somebody in love. It was more like somebody obsessed.
Darlene! Corey just wasn't ready to let their relationship go.
He was gonna find some sympathy move on her. Like, if you leave me, I'll kill myself if you ever leave me.
Hey, you can't leave me. You hear me? You just can't.
JR claims that in addition to threatening to kill himself, Corey had broken into Darlene's apartment before moving to Utah.
He wasn't there when she got home, but Darlene knew it was him.
Rick Don is like trashing the place.
She told you about that?
I mean, I was there.
Her makeup was on the floor. Her bed sheets were on the floor. Her closet was just everywhere. It was a big mess.
I was just like, damn, that guy's going crazy like this.
He told her that she needed to make a police report just to have that in writing, showing that he did that.
And since she refused to like put charges on him, even though everybody told her to.
She just felt bad. She didn't want to put him in a bad position.
But does that mean Corey was Darlene's killer?
It's possible that JR or Marcus could have been pointing the finger at Corey to divert suspicion from themselves.
Police absolutely made sure to keep that in consideration.
However, the detectives also have reason to suspect that JR and Marcus are telling the truth.
Everything has pointed back to Corey, his jealous behavior, and he had opportunity. I mean, he was living there in the apartment.
And unlike Marcus or JR, Corey is nowhere to be found.
Additional interviews with Darlene's family and friends only add to the suspicion that Corey Campbell was behind the murder.
There were conversations that Darlene had with her closest friends about Corey's aggression and that Corey was not willing or ready to let go.
He was doing little things to let her know, I'm still here.
He would call her up and text her when she's out with her friends, say, what are you doing?
That all added to this general theme of the possessive and aggressive nature that Corey had with Darlene.
And when detectives sit down with Darlene's mother, she tells them that she had been worried about Corey for some time.
When he broke into her apartment, I kind of realized that he was not good for her.
It's like there's this whole other side to him that no one knows about.
Darlene's mother also says she had warned her daughter about letting Corey back into her life.
I told her, there's no reason for him to be staying at your apartment. And that last day that I saw her, I told her, you need to tell him he needs to move out.
He had the ability to go back home, to get somewhere to stay, but it all goes back to power and control. I can control how she views me and how she sees me. She's going to see me as vulnerable and can play on her emotions and allow me to have control over her by being in her space and taking up her space.
But while Darlene's mother says she thought Corey was taking advantage of her daughter, she never suspected he would actually hurt Darlene.
I would have never thought that he would have done that.
I don't think anyone thought that Corey Campbell was capable of this.
It's like there's a different side of him that we don't know about.
And when the detectives received the forensics results from the crime scene, They further suggest that Corey was capable of murder.
The handgun that was discovered under the bed came back as being purchased and owned by Corey Campbell.
Ballistics was able to figure out that was the murder weapon.
Now all the detectives have to do is find him.
This is somebody who fled and should be considered extremely dangerous.
But the manhunt has barely begun when detectives get a call from a sheriff in Forsyth County, North Carolina.
The sheriff tells detectives they were tipped off by someone at a local attorney's office that Corey was in town.
He fled Houston and he went to North Carolina to where his mom and daughter live.
This guy came into the law firm today with his mother and was saying that he think he killed the girl in Houston.
Detectives investigating Darlene Solis's murder have a lead on the whereabouts of their prime suspect, Corey Campbell.
They received word from a sheriff in North Carolina that Corey had turned up at a local law firm seeking representation.
A friend of mine is a friend of one of the lawyers in that law firm that he showed up at with his mother.
Okay.
And what was said to the friend of mine from one of the lawyers that was there was that this guy showed up from Texas saying that he shot a deputy's daughter.
Darlene's stepfather is a Harris County, Texas sheriff's deputy.
The police start working with the authorities in North Carolina to get Corey back here to Houston.
We might be able to get a full-blown charge and warrant for murder issued on him tomorrow, and then we'll just let you guys locate him.
The officers that were involved out in North Carolina were ready to make sure that Corey was held accountable.
The next day, with warrants in hand, North Carolina authorities take Corey into custody.
That was a big relief. I'm like, finally, like, we're getting justice for Darlene. It was like the best news that we had received.
24 hours later, the Houston detectives sit down with Corey for the first time.
And they flew out to North Carolina to try to further the investigation.
I mean, it's up to you. Either you want to talk to us or not. If not,
okay, I'm not allowed without my attorney. One of my attorneys being pleased.
You can do what you want.
I mean, that's certainly everybody's right, but it can be irritating.
Still, the flight isn't entirely a waste.
While detectives are in North Carolina, they're contacted by the pastor where Corey's mom goes to church.
His mom, she called me, and she was hysterical and upset, and said she needed to talk to me.
He says that Corey's mom then put her son on the phone.
He said, "Yo, what's up, man?" He was with Becky, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he said, "Some stuff jumped off or whatever." He said, "I just need prayer." So I told him, I said, "I'll pray for you." I said, "But what's going on?" And he said, "One thing led to another, man, and then my girlfriend, we got into it. It just happened." And I said, "What happened?" I said, "Did you kill him?" He said, "Yeah."
Instead of going to the police, he went to a pastor and he was confessing to what he's done.
He said, "Yeah, I popped off like 3 times, you know what I'm saying?" And I said, what do you mean popped off? Popped off what? And he says, "I shot him."
And he's talking to him matter-of-factly, not really seemingly showing any sorrow over what he's done.
I said, "Do you know for a fact that she's dead?" He said, "Yes, she did." I said, "Well, how do you know she's dead?" He said, "Well, I shot her in the belly."
The pastor says he'd urged Corey to go to the police.
I said, "Yeah, you need to be a man. If you kill her, you need to take yourself in."
When he heard Corey had been arrested, the pastor contacted detectives himself.
I cannot, as a asked her as a human being know something like that could sit on the information.
Corey is extradited back to Texas, and when he finally goes on trial for Darlene's murder in April of 2023, the prosecution portrays him as a jealous ex who refused to let go.
So, you gonna stay in tonight so we can hang out?
Clients.
What? I just want to spend time with you.
Darlene was simply trying to help him get back on his feet. And the fact that she had already told him we're not getting back together and that she was actively dating someone was one of the final breaking points for Corey to finally realize that he didn't have a chance.
Despite that, the prosecutors believe that on the day of the murder, Corey pleaded with Darlene to take him back.
Honestly, I think it's time for you to look for your own place. This is not working out.
Please.
I told you it wasn't gonna happen this time.
She said she didn't want to be with him anymore.
It didn't matter what he did or what he bought her. She was going to leave his life and he couldn't take it.
You don't mean that.
I do. I'm sorry, but I do.
Don't walk away from me.
Corey was much more possessive and aggressive than a lot of people knew.
He did not see her as a human. He saw her as a possession, and he therefore took action to get control over his possession, which resulted in her death.
Just like the story we've heard millions of times before. It's, I'll have her or nobody will have her.
Then he'd stashed the gun under the bed and fled the scene.
A lot of these types of crimes are passionate crimes, and they're not really well thought out.
When it's the defense's turn, Corey's attorneys put him on the stand.
When Corey took the stand, the defense's position was that there was essentially an accidental discharge during the struggle of a gun that led to the death of Darlene.
His story wasn't adding up. Darlene was a tiny girl.
They were trying to say that Darlene could somehow overpower Corey, that her finger was on the trigger and it went off 2 or 3 more times after she sustained a headshot. And we pointed out all the contradictions and inconsistencies in that statement, stories about his possessive and aggressive nature. I think it really presented a picture to the jury of who Corey truly was.
When the jury returns with a verdict, it's clear they agree with the prosecution's take.
They found him guilty of murder.
He was sentenced to 40 years, and he has to serve at least half of that before he becomes eligible for parole.
That just kind of isn't fair for the family, that he only got 40 years and didn't get life. But I thank God for the guilty verdict.
When you lose someone that way, nothing feels like justice, right? No amount of time, no amount of sentencing, because at the end of the day, I still do not have this person that you took away from me.
All Darlene's friends and family can do in her absence is hope that her story can prevent others from suffering a similar fate.
It's important for victims to realize that they are in an abusive relationship. But a part of that is cutting all contact, because as long as they have that contact or connection to you, they will use that as a way to play on your vulnerabilities.
It may be painful at first, but in the long run, you'll be glad you did it, and the alternative could be very tragic.
I miss her just calling me and asking me if I was okay, if I needed anything, asking me to do things with her. I miss her personality. I just miss everything about Darlene.
She was courageous. She had a lot of love to give, a lot of love. And she would brighten up your day. I'll be grieving for her loss for the rest of my life.
Inside your head and plays with your conscience. You might just completely lose yourself and suffer consequences you never imagined possible. January 29th, 2014. It's just past midnight in the historic city of Boston.
Boston, it's a beautiful city that's very diverse, and there's a very strong culture here.
It's a great city to get your life started. Lots of opportunities to do just about anything you'd like here.
But the city has also been suffering from an influx of gang violence.
Police were really trying to crack down on violent gang members throughout the city and get them off the street.
Over on the south side of town, 2 officers are surveilling the home of a well-known gang member, Bo Butler.
Bo was known for being really dangerous.
Bo's lifestyle has been a life of crime.
The officers spot Bo and a young African-American female exit the home and get into Bo's vehicle.
The plan was to simply follow them to see where they were going.
The officers pull out discreetly and trail the sedan. Once they get out to the main road, Bo's vehicle suddenly climbs to a high rate of speed.
The suspect accelerated to a dangerous speed, and the officers had no choice but to end their surveillance.
The officer turns on his lights and immediately starts chasing the car.
With the police cruiser hot on his trail, Bo begins to slow down and pulls over without incident. But as the officers prepare to approach Bo's vehicle, they know they must use extreme caution.
Car stop is the most dangerous thing a police officer can do.
When you're an officer, your life is at risk at all times, but now you have a known gang member with a history of utilizing weapons.
In their approach, officers notice an excess of movement inside the vehicle.
Bo is moving around, fidgeting, making gestures as if he's trying to conceal something.
The officers can't quite tell what's going on in the front seat between the 2 occupants.
As the officers make their way to the front of the sedan, that's when they see the gun.
They can see the female passenger has a bulge under her shirt.
The officers draw their firearms and tell Bo and the female to get out of the car with their hands up.
The female passenger and Bo exchange a look.
Police didn't know what was going to happen next.
In 2013, 19-year-old Boston native Jamila Tresvant had big dreams and a bright future.
Jamila was a really lovely young woman. People were naturally drawn to her.
Everyone loved her.
She had a beautiful smile and had lots of friends.
Jamila was working as a waitress at a local restaurant to save up for dental school.
I wanted to be a dentist because I liked going to the dentist. I used to ask them all types of questions.
She has a lot of drive. She's determined.
She had good intentions when it came to herself and her future goals.
In the spring of that year, Jamila was working overtime to make her dreams a reality. And that's when she met someone who would change her life forever. 23-year-old Bo Butler.
Bo and Jamila had a really strong connection from the moment they started to interact.
I was attracted to him. He was handsome. He had like these pretty nice brown eyes. He was really a sweetheart.
Though Jamila had never met Bo before, she immediately recognized his name.
Bo was well known in the streets. He had known gang ties and affiliations. When Jamila met him, he had recently gotten out of jail.
Jamila wasn't turned off by Bo's reputation. If anything, she was intrigued.
She liked the bad boy thing. This guy, is tough.
People always told me about his reputation, but he had manners. He was a gentleman.
When Bo asked Jamila if he could see her again after she got off work, she couldn't resist.
Jamila gave Bo her number, and they agreed to meet up after her shift.
Later that evening, the two clicked on every level and found each other irresistible.
They had like a magnetic chemistry. Although she was completely aware of his rap sheet, being in a gang, and being the violent person that he was, none of that seemed to faze her or change her mind about being with him.
There was so much draw for her with Bo. He was charismatic and charming and alluring, and that kind of drew her into his world.
The bond was so quick. I think I was just so into him, I just rolled with the punches. We had like a lot of fun together.
Just a couple weeks after meeting, the two began sharing an apartment.
He would like run up to me and start kissing all over me. It was cute.
He showered her with love and affection. This was true love, and this was the person that she would spend the rest of her life with.
Even though he had this bad reputation, he was really a good person. He had a real genuine heart.
But soon, Jamila would see a new side of Bo and learn how dangerous her man really was.
She had no idea what she was in for.
January 29th, 2014. In their efforts to crack down on local gang violence, Boston police have found themselves toe-to-toe with Bo Butler and a female companion.
The female seemed to have a bulge in her shirt, and police were worried it was a weapon.
Officers command the occupants to get out of the vehicle.
At this time, police don't know if they're going to comply or not, so the tension is high.
Bo was well known to be quite aggressive and rough around the edges.
Fortunately, the duo complies with police and exits the vehicle without incident. Officers learn that the female is Bo's girlfriend, Jamila Tresvant.
She was clearly terrified.
I was nervous when that officer came to do a pat first.
The officer recovers a .22 Magnum revolver and also some rounds of ammunition.
Officers don't find any additional weaponry on Bo, but they aren't so sure the gun found on Jamila really belongs to her.
They tell me, we know that's not your gun. They said, we know whose gun it is.
Bo is the one that's a known gang member and has a history of carrying guns.
They said, tell us whose gun this is, and we're gonna just take that person whose gun it is to jail.
But Jamila's answer surprises them.
I told them that it was my gun.
It was clear that she was trying to protect Bo, but the police didn't have a choice.
They had to take her into custody and let Bo go free.
Bo said to me before I got in the car that he loved me. He said, I love you.
Little did police know, this was just the surface of a Pandora's box of dirty deeds Jamila's man had pushed her into.
They say your girlfriend is supposed to represent you or whatever. So I feel like he was kind of trying to give me that kind of image.
"19-year-old Jamila Tresvant was head over heels for 23-year-old Bo Butler.
From day one, Jamila knew that she wanted to be his woman. Their chemistry was truly magnetic and really powerful.
Even though Bo was known around town for his gang ties, Jamila saw past his tough exterior.
I was just so in love with this man. He made me feel like a woman.
She sees a side of him that all of those other people don't see. You know, they see the criminal, they see the dangerous person, they see the guy that's always armed. But to her, he's really sweet and gentle.
Jamila had never been with anyone like Bo before, and she was all in.
Opposites attract. Meeting someone like Bo, he runs around with a gun, speeds, breaks the law, maybe it's kind of exciting for her.
Bo has this extreme hold over her, and she's just very much in love with him.
But what Jamila didn't yet realize is that her love for Bo would soon put her on a destructive path and test her own morality.
For her, there's this internal battle taking place where she's trying to figure out, how can I change him and prove my love to him at the same time?
She just knew in that moment that, if I love him, this is what I was going to have to do.
January 29th, 2014, South Boston. Police have just taken Jamila Tresvant into custody for unlawful possession of a firearm.
She says it's her gun.
It's an admission of guilt, and in Massachusetts, it's illegal to possess a firearm without a license or a permit. It's a felony offense.
Officers suspect Jamila is taking the fall for her boyfriend, Bo Butler.
They said they knew, but that wasn't my gun.
The police were aware of Bo. He had a history of having guns on his person.
They had already been surveilling him as part of their crackdown on local gangs.
But with Jamila taking full ownership of the weapon, police have no choice but to let Bo off easy.
Since they didn't have anything on Bo, he was free to go with a minor traffic citation.
After being filled in by the arresting officers, detectives begin looking into Jamila's case. What they discover bolsters the officers' theory that Jamila is trying to protect Bo.
She didn't have a violent history, so it seemed odd that the gun would be hers.
In this case, it sounds like a model young teenager who has a bright future ahead of them.
This is a girl that was going to be educated as a dentist.
Detectives sit down to interrogate Jamila and get right to the point. They tell her they believe the gun was in Bo's possession at the time police pulled them over.
The officers had witnessed Bo in the front seat moving frantically and acting as though he was trying to hide something.
Bo had been in trouble with the law before and was currently on probation for assaulting an officer.
Detectives believe Bo asked her to hide the gun for him, and she agreed.
If someone's gonna go down for the gun, who's gonna go down longest? I'm a girl. You're a guy. This would be a third strike. You're looking at 10 to 15.
This incident was her chance to prove that she was really ride or die, that she was in it, 100%.
Detectives encourage Jamila to tell the truth.
Detectives really hope that Jamila would cooperate with them. They let her know that she doesn't have to do this. They said, we might be able to help you out if you can help us with this.
That is so rare, where officers are actually on your side and they're giving you an out. They wanted her so badly to just say the gun was his.
But Jamila won't budge.
At the end of the day, she insisted that the gun was hers.
In that moment, her priority was protecting Bo and saving Bo. And so she decided, I will take the fall. I will accept these charges.
Jamila is charged with unlawful possession of a firearm.
I was so scared because I knew I was gonna go to jail. I knew I wasn't coming home.
But soon, someone will come forward that will turn everything on its head and reveal the gun charge is only the beginning of the couple's transgressions.
Chemistry is just so strong that it's all about this one person, and I think that's what came over her.
You just don't do things like that for anybody. He did take control of my mind.
January 29th, 2014. Police have just charged 19-year-old Jamila Tresvant for unlawful firearm possession. They believe Jamila is covering for her boyfriend, well-known gang member, 23-year-old Bo Butler. But with Jamila claiming the gun as her own, they have no proof.
She's not cooperating. Detectives have no choice but to charge Jamila with the possession of a firearm.
In the weeks leading up to Jamila's sentencing hearing, police notice she's continuing to correspond with her man.
He wrote letters, gave her money to put on her commissary.
While Jamila is in jail, Bo is still being the charismatic person, giving her the assurance that everything's gonna be okay.
We still was in a relationship. We was still so in love.
As far as Jamila was concerned, Bo was standing by her side. Their love was still strong, and that dream that she had of this long-term relationship would continue.
She still believed that her and Bo were going to end up together one day.
that they were going to get married, have a family, and everything was going to go right back to normal.
To detectives, it seems Jamila is in this for the long haul.
They couldn't help but feel bad for this young woman. She was throwing her future away, and their hands were tied.
She was facing a maximum of 2 years in prison for this.
But just days before Jamila's sentencing hearing, a woman comes forward who could change everything.
She said that she had some information for the detectives that would help Jamila's case.
The woman identifies herself as Alexis Smith, one of Jamila's best friends.
She formed the investigators. She didn't want to see her friend take the fall for something that she believed her friend didn't do.
Alexis says after weeks of contemplating her friend's arrest, she couldn't stay quiet any longer.
She felt like Jamila was making the biggest mistake of her life.
According to Alexis, Bo was extremely manipulative, especially when it came to Jamila.
She said she was never a fan of Bo. She always thought he was a bad influence and someone that would bring her friend down. But Jamila couldn't be deterred.
He was very good with words. He was very good with manipulating people.
Sometimes if you're in love or infatuated with somebody, you'll agree to do something that goes against what you believe just to prove to that person that you're there for them.
Alexis tells detectives that one night, Bo's influence over Jamila became especially apparent.
Her friends were gathering. They were going to be having a good time, having a party. They weren't drinking, and a lot of flirting was happening between Jamila and Bo.
But the lively evening took a turn for the worst when the host accidentally spilled her drink on Bo, and it infuriated him.
Bo felt disrespected by her.
I feel like he felt challenged. Bo can't tolerate nothing.
Everyone got quiet, not sure what would happen next. Bo was seething.
Bo had the attention of everyone's eye. Everyone on the street knows that Bo always carries a weapon.
He was dangerous. A lot of people were scared of him, but he didn't put his hands on women. So he's just like, go beat her up.
Alexis says at first, Jamila thought her man was joking.
That's not my personality. I don't start problems with people. I'm not an aggressor.
But Jamila soon realized Bo was serious, and Alexis watched in shock as her friend did the unthinkable.
I willingly submitted. I was just so in love with this man that I probably got to the point where I would do anything for him. So I whooped her ass.
She assaulted this girl in front of everyone.
Alexis just couldn't believe that it was actually happening, and she was terrified.
Bo's torment didn't end there. Alexis says she and the other partygoers were frozen as Bo instructed Jamila to help him grab the host's TV.
We didn't have a TV where we lived at. She had a nice TV. So then now Bo's like, come on, we're gonna take that TV right there. He's like, come on, help me move it. So now the girl's screaming, going crazy. But because of his status, she just knew not to touch him. She knew not to touch me. And we walked out with her TV.
Alexis states the party host never reported the assault or the theft. But after that, Alexis felt like she had lost Jamila.
The more isolated Jamila was with Bo, the more she forgot about who she was, her values.
Jamila was fully invested in this relationship. He was her sole priority.
Alexis explains that eventually, Jamila's education even took a backseat to her relationship with Bo. And that's when she and Jamila's mother decided to have an intervention.
She and Jamila's mom tried to convince her not to see him again.
She was becoming sidetracked. I told her, Jamila, just what about dental school? Let's not forget about everything that you're planning for your life. You don't have to stay with him. It's seems dangerous. You could get hurt.
Her mother really wanted Jamila to just come home. She wanted her to step away from that relationship.
But the discussion was abruptly cut short when Bo showed up unannounced.
He walked in and told Jamila it was time to leave.
She ended up going with him. She just couldn't tell him no.
Jamila was so deep in that there was not much that they could say to change the situation.
I think little by little, she started to tune out the people in her life that really wanted to see the best for her.
I was disappointed. I had been talking the whole time to Jamila. She didn't listen. There's nothing I can do. We just have to sit back and wait and hope.
Alexis tells detectives that despite the pleas from her family and friends, Jamila's dedication to her man was only about to get worse.
He told her these guys were going to have to die.
She was willing to make certain sacrifices so that he knew that she was loyal and loved him.
In the fall of 2014, 19-year-old Jamila Tresvant sits in a jail cell, awaiting sentencing for a crime that police suspect she did not commit.
They actually charge her with this illegal possession of a firearm, and typical sentence for that would be a 2-year minimum mandatory.
Police believed that she was holding the gun for her boyfriend, Bo. But since Jamila was taking full responsibility, police had no proof.
Now detectives are speaking with Jamila's best friend, Alexis Smith, who claims she has information that could help Jamila get leniency from the judge.
Alexis says ever since Jamila started dating Bo, he had been trying to manipulate her into doing his dirty work for him.
It all started when he ordered Jamila into assaulting a woman at a party one night.
Bo felt like the party host disrespected him by spilling her drink on his clothes, and he ordered Jamila to punish the woman for what she'd done.
It wasn't even our personal beef. I didn't want to do that because that's not even my personality.
Alexis says she and Jamila's mother tried to have an intervention with Jamila to get her to end things with Bo, but Jamila couldn't be swayed.
I'm like, you should come home. You know what I mean? And she didn't want to. She was like really into this relationship. I started realizing, okay, this is bad.
According to Alexis, things only got worse from there.
Alexis says that she and Jamila were hanging out at Jamila's place when Bo stormed in.
He was pacing back and forth and started going on and on about some guy that had pissed him off.
He said that boy's reputation is him being a rat, like telling on somebody in a situation.
Alexis was terrified, and she says Jamila also seemed afraid.
Bo was a really scary guy, not somebody you wanted to be around when he was mad.
Bo was out for blood. He said he wanted to teach the guy a lesson. But Alexis tells detectives that what Bo said next made her heart sink.
He wanted to rob this particular person, and he wanted to enlist Jamila's help to accomplish that.
Alexis says she hoped that Jamila would make the right decision and refuse to help her man with another one of his schemes. She waited with bated breath as her friend began to mull things over.
I can imagine that being in that situation, Jamila is conflicted. So she wants to please her boyfriend, who she wants to have a future with, but she didn't have a prior criminal history. So her conscience maybe fell upon her.
I ain't never robbed nobody. That's not the type of person I am. It just wasn't me. I'm not like that. So that's not what I wanted to do.
She was uncomfortable with the idea.
Sensing Jamila's apprehension, Bo started laying it on thick.
The big part is, if you're going to be with me when I do dirt, we're going to do dirt together.
Bo said things like, I'm the only one that loves you. I'm always going to be there for you.
Some of the things, that he said to me, he was playing with my mind. That's how I feel. I just feel like he thought he could take control of my mind.
At some point, the charm turns into manipulation, asking a young woman to do something that she's not comfortable with, but having that expectation that she would do it anyway.
Alexis tells detectives she was horrified when she witnessed her friend reluctantly agree to Bo's robbery plan.
Jamila has allowed this person to become her only priority.
In her mind, she hears all the pet names and how much he loves her. So for her, it's important to go through with the plan.
That wasn't the right choice for me to do, but I was just so in love.
She never wanted to disappoint Bo, but she was also at war within herself between the love that she had for Bo and her strong ethics and moral foundation. She was willing to make certain sacrifices so that he knew that she loved him.
With Jamila on board, Bo began to explain how they would carry out the robbery.
He explained that they were going to lure the man and his friend to a hotel room under the ruse of a party.
Bo would be waiting outside while Jamila kept the guys occupied in the hotel room.
Jamila would give him the signal, and then he would bust into the room with a gun.
He's like, just let me know when he's in the room, and when they're in the room, we're gonna come up and we're gonna tie them up.
But what Bo said next was even more chilling.
Bo mentioned that sometimes when you're doing those types of things, robbing people, you may have to get rid of them.
Bo had a violent temper and it could escalate real quickly. It was going to turn violent, from a robbery to assault or a robbery to murder.
He would say, everybody in the situation gotta go. Basically, whoever we rob, they have to die.
September 2014. Boston detectives are hearing an unbelievable story from Alexis Smith, a friend of 19-year-old Jamila Tresvant.
Jamila was charged with unlawful possession of a firearm, but her friend believed she was taking the rap for her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend, Bo, was known for his gang ties, which is what had put the couple on the police's radar in the first place.
Alexis was hoping that if she could demonstrate Bo's manipulation over her friend, they might go easy on Jamila.
Alexis claims that this isn't the first time Bo has manipulated Jamila into doing his dirty work.
Bo had concocted a plot to rob a man that he had known, who he considered a rat.
I'm just thinking like, okay, so if we're gonna rob this person, we're just gonna go and we're gonna rob them. And that's it, we're gonna go on our way.
But Bo had other plans.
He would say, like, everybody in the situation gotta go. And I was never that type of person.
She has morals, but she's also in love. And she's so torn with the fact that he's asking her to do these horrible things.
Jamila is feeling conflicted because she wants a life with this man, but she doesn't like what he does.
Ultimately, she was still willing to help him with the robbery, even though she knew what the outcome might be.
That's his lifestyle. That wasn't my lifestyle, but when I made that decision, I made it a part of my life.
The next night, Bo and Jamila put their plan into action. After telling the victims to meet them at a local hotel for the party.
She went inside the hotel room with the guys while Bo waited outside for her signal.
The guys were immediately a bit suspicious that no one was there yet.
When the victims asked where Bo and the other partygoers were, Jamila tried to stall them.
She's hanging out with the men, telling them other people are coming, texting Bo the whole time.
But once the plan was in motion, everything started to become too real.
She knew Bo would potentially really hurt or potentially kill this young man.
Bo was dangerous. A lot of people were scared of him. I remember him telling me, like, Jamila, everybody's gotta go.
She starts to realize, like, what am I doing? She was leading this guy to his potential death because of, her undying love for Bo.
Jamila had to make a decision about whether she was going to lead this person into a trap or save his life. That's when her moral compass kicked in.
But at the end of the day, I did have a conscience. It was just too much. I chickened out right then and there, and I grabbed my phone.
Jamila texted Bo and told him the plan was off.
She decided to tell the guys that she was feeling sick and that they would have to have a rain check for the party.
The guys were obviously kind of confused and suspicious, but they left without ever knowing the actual danger they were in.
Bo was blowing up Jamila's phone, but she ignored the calls until the guys were out of the room.
When Jamila called Bo back, he was livid.
He was really disappointed in her, and he felt like she really wasn't his ride or die chick.
He told her he was going to leave her there, and she could find her own ride home.
That's when Jamila called Alexis to come pick her up.
She told Alexis everything that had happened.
She was devastated. She hated to disappoint Bo.
Alexis tells detectives she begged Jamila not to go back home to Bo.
She tried to get her to come home with her and stay there until they could figure something out.
Alexis thought it might be dangerous for Jamila to go home if Bo was angry.
But Jamila insisted on going back to her man.
She wanted to go back to him and make things right.
We were bonded by love, unbreakable, by loyalty. That's what he used to say to me all the time.
When Alexis dropped Jamila off at home, Bo was angrily waiting outside.
Bo expected Jamila to be his number one, to always follow his lead. But in this case, she failed to help him carry out his plan.
Alexis was terrified for her friend as Bo led her into the house. But she felt like her hands were tied.
She had tried so many times to get Jamila away from Bo, but Jamila just wouldn't listen.
Alexis says that was the last time she saw Jamila.
The next thing she knew, Jamila was behind bars on the gun charge.
The second she heard about it, she knew the guns must be Bo's, and this was just another scheme of his.
At this point, there was no doubt in anyone's mind who the gun belonged to. They knew Jamila was taking the fall for her man.
Detectives thank Alexis for her candor. And though it still doesn't provide definitive proof that the gun was Bo's, it does show a string of manipulative behavior.
Jamila was blinded by love and could not break Bo's power over her.
I would do anything to protect him, and he made me feel that way.
Armed with Alexis's statement, detectives feel they have just enough to get Jamila to recant her statement about the gun.
Police sat down with her and tried to, for lack of a better term, talk some sense into her.
Detectives lay it all on the table. They tell her everything that they learned from her friend Alexis, from the criminal acts that Bo tried to involve her in to the manipulation.
They said, we know who your boyfriend is and we know his rap sheet, but you're just saying that the gun is yours to protect him, and it's okay, we understand where your mindset was.
They remind Jamila that she still has a bright future ahead of her. She has a chance to change her statement and save herself.
They're giving you several opportunities to get out, and she would get away with just like a slap on the wrist.
They ask her one final time, whose gun is it that we found in your possession?
Unfortunately, detectives' efforts are in vain.
She insisted that the gun was hers.
Bo was clearly the voice in her head that stood out for her.
But soon, a shocking revelation will come to light. One that exposes the man Jamila just threw her life away for.
She told me, she's like, Bo has 2 babies on the way. I feel like I was young. I was young and I was dumb. I feel like I was in lust. Sometimes lust will make you do certain things. What I can say now, if anyone ever asks me, do I love Bo? No, I don't love him. Honestly, that's not my definition of love now. I have like a whole new outlook of how it looks. That's not what it is.
In the fall of 2014, 19-year-old Jamila Tresvant is awaiting sentencing after taking the fall for her man, 23-year-old gang member Bo Butler.
She was completely under Bo's spell and would do anything to prove her love to him.
She hid his gun for him, and once it was found by police, she said it was hers.
Massachusetts is among several states that have the most restrictive gun laws in the country.
Despite her friend Alexis Smith's statement demonstrating Bo's manipulation and influence over Jamila, police still have no proof the weapon is his.
Jamila consistently denied that the gun was Bo's, and she repeatedly stated that the gun was hers.
In September of 2014, Jamila's sentencing hearing gets underway.
Her entire family was there.
And she stood firm. You could look at her when she's looking at us like, I'm taking this for my man.
She stood there in the courtroom while they read the entire transcript of events, and her family had to witness and hear all of that.
The judge sentences Jamila to 22 months in prison. And at that point, reality hits her.
I cried right in the courtroom. I laid down and I cried.
She just started to sob and was completely embarrassed.
By protecting her man, she pretty much put a mark on her future that's going to stay with her for the rest of her life.
A few months into Jamila's sentence, she receives some shocking news about the man she just risked everything for.
A friend of hers called her to tell her what her man had been up to while she's serving time.
Bo slept with 2 different girls, and my friend told me, she's like, Bo has 2 babies on the way.
This, of course, was devastating to Jamila. She was completely and utterly committed to him and sacrificed her freedom.
So after all her sacrifices, after all she's done for him, proving that she loved him, proving that she's ride or die, Bo ends up having 2 other children with 2 other females.
In that moment, Jamila began to realize that this love that she felt was not reciprocated, and she felt like she was being played and was taken advantage of and used.
But the shock didn't stop there.
Bo was arrested for unlawful possession of a firearm a few months after she was incarcerated. So since Bo was already on probation, he was sentenced to a whopping 7 years.
He ended up still being in jail for the exact same charge, and essentially her sacrifice was for nothing.
You're trying to keep this guy out of jail, he goes anyways.
I was angry, and I just feel like it was just a waste because I could have stayed out.
Jamila was released from prison in November of 2016. Today, she looks back with regret on her decision to take the fall for her man.
I just made the dumbest mistake ever. If I could have went back, I would have never said that gun was mine. I just wish I didn't put myself in that situation.
It's sad that women feel like they have to forget themselves to keep a man.
I feel like I put him before me. My heart was too big. I didn't understand the consequences.
Jamila now knows Bo was never the right man for her and is looking forward to a future without him.
The experience was wild and crazy and scary and sad, but she was able to kick those habits and turn her life around. She doubled back to staying on track, trying to do what she needs to do for herself. She tries to be as choosy as she can on the guys that she dates nowadays.
I feel like I learned what real love is and what real love isn't. I learned to put myself first. Don't ever put anybody before you, especially not no man.
If you are in a healthy, supportive relationship, your partner will not ask you to do something that would put you in danger. And they certainly wouldn't ask you to do something that could lead to your arrest or potentially death or the harm of other people.
Jamila hopes that her story will inspire young women to listen to their inner voice and never compromise themselves for the sake of a relationship.
Women should sort of be reminded of that small voice is actually helping you.
Young women, the butterflies that you're feeling inside does not override the logic that you know to be true.
I'm glad that I can tell my story. Other girls to learn from me. Don't ever do it.
We trust our inner voice to guide us in the right direction. But sometimes the voice inside our heart can be louder than the voice inside our head. If you're not careful, you can find yourself choosing love over what's right and suffering unimaginable consequences. When life has been cruel, it feels like a breath of fresh air. when someone comes along to take care of you and make you feel safe. The euphoria of love impairs the senses and strips away vulnerabilities. But if you stop listening to your instincts, that same love could end up suffocating you, overruling your sound judgment, and costing you everything. July 3rd, 2009. It's a muggy summer night in Augusta, Georgia, as residents try to get some rest before the impending holiday.
Augusta has like a small town feel, quaint, normally quiet town.
Augusta is a great city. It's very family oriented. It's 2 hours away from the mountains, 2 hours away from the beaches.
On the north side of town, Roger Campbell is settling in for the evening around 11:40 p.m.
He's getting ready for bed. He hears a noise outside.
And it's soon clear the commotion isn't July 4th fireworks.
As he was walking towards the window, he was hearing screams as well.
He sees several men running from the house across the street. Seconds later, he sees a young woman running and screaming.
In the doorway of the residence, Roger sees something else that makes his heart stop.
He sees a man laying on the floor, and it looks like his neighbor, Miguel Hernandez.
Roger grabs his phone and immediately calls 911.
He tells police they need to get there right away, and that it looks like his neighbor is seriously injured.
First responders race to the scene.
They know they don't have much time if they want to save this man's life.
But what police don't yet know is that there's an unsuspecting young girl at the center of this crime. One who hasn't even celebrated her 18th birthday yet. As a young child, Cassietta Felton was given a stable, structured life.
I got raised with my grandparents, actually. I didn't live with my parents. It was like church every Sunday, school every day, you're not missing a day of school.
Cassietta received a lot of discipline and structure, but it was a lot of love. And she appreciated it all. She went to a great school. They lived in a wonderful neighborhood, and she just really loved being with her grandmother.
But the structured upbringing Cassietta had become accustomed to eventually came crashing down.
My grandmother got sick at the age I was 12 and a half, going on 13.
Eventually, her grandmother was too ill to care for her. So she moves in with her mother and her mother's boyfriend.
It really broke my heart that I had to go back because I didn't want to go back. My mother was living in a rough neighborhood that you call the hood.
There was a stark comparison between the life that she had with her grandmother compared to the new life she has with her mother.
Her boyfriend was an alcoholic. He did drugs. At the age of 13 and a half, he started doing some unusual stuff, like touching me.
Cassietta decided she couldn't stay at her mother's home any longer.
I packed my things and I left.
She couldn't no longer take the sexual abuse. She needed to leave in order to find safety. She didn't know where she was going, but she felt like the streets would be better than living in a home being sexually abused.
I went from house to house. I barely ate. Sometimes I ate, sometimes I didn't. It's some people that I hung around, and that was women that were older than me. They was leading me in the wrong direction. Like going to the club with fake IDs, doing drugs, having sex for money, just to survive because I was only 13.
After 2 years of surviving on her own, Cassietta finally got a welcome request from her mother.
Her mother was no longer with her abusive boyfriend, and her mother asked her if she would come home.
When my mom decided to leave her boyfriend, all she said was, "I want you to come home."
Although Cassietta was happy to get out of the street life, she still had very mixed emotions toward her mother. Because for 2 years, she lived on the street, trying to navigate life, trying to fend for herself.
So when I got home, it got better. But that hurt was still inside of me.
After everything she'd been through, Cassietta took on a protector role over her younger siblings.
When she came back, it was like she never left. Cassietta was fun, loving, a sister that was just everything. She made sure we were okay. She was like a second mom when my mom wasn't there.
And Cassietta would soon find someone she thought could be her protector. It all started one sunny day in the spring of 2008.
One day, she was like, "Let's walk to the store." And I was like, "Okay, let's go."
Every time we went to the store, we would walk in this neighborhood. So we just walking. And the next thing you know, these boys was trying to talk to me. And I was just like, I'm trying to go to the store. I don't have time.
But there was one young man who caught Cassietta's attention.
So he was the boy out there cutting grass, dirty, everything. I thought he was cute. So that's who I wanted to talk to.
The young man mowing the lawn was 16-year-old Brandon Steplight. Cassietta could not take her eyes off of Brandon.
I could tell that we really liked each other because we both was nervous. And it took us a little minute to exchange numbers. And we kept smiling at each other. Like we could both feel that connection.
After that day, Cassietta and Brandon became inseparable.
Me and Brandon started off as friends, and as we started spending more time together, that's when our connection started getting even deeper. He stayed with his uncle, I stayed with my mom. I wouldn't never do no cooking. He would do all the cooking. So I would just eat and he cooked. And that's just how we connected, We would be around each other like every day.
Cassietta introduced Brandon to her family, and they fell in love with him almost as quickly as she did. And on the surface, it seemed that Brandon was like gonna be the best influence.
Brandon was Cassie's knight in shining armor. In my mind, I was like, maybe he's a good match for her. Maybe she'll grow up, become the woman that she really needs to be with him, and they can just rule the world together.
No one foresaw just how differently things would actually go.
She had no idea how much trouble Brandon was about to rope her into.
I just heard a whole bunch of commotion. Then I heard one gunshot.
At 16 years old, Cassietta Felton thought she'd finally found happiness after a life of struggle and abuse.
Cassietta was back in school. She was amongst her peers. She was doing well. She was flourishing.
It was around this time that she began dating Brandon Steplight, who was also 16 years old.
Cassietta and Brandon had two different beginnings. Cassietta lived in low-income housing, come from an impoverished environment. Brandon, he grew up as a suburban kid. So they did have differences, but it didn't stop their connection from growing.
Brandon was loving and supporting of Cassietta and her entire family.
It would be times to where we really wouldn't have no food, and Brandon would get up and go get food for the whole house to make sure we eat and everything.
But Brandon would soon show another side of himself when his own cash flow began to dwindle. July 3rd, 2009. Augusta police have just arrived on the scene of a late-night shooting where 30-year-old Miguel Hernandez has been found unresponsive.
Miguel Hernandez was found shot to death. He was killed by a single gunshot wound to the chest.
As CSI combed the scene for clues, detectives turned to the neighbor who called 911, Roger Campbell.
So they did interview Roger Campbell there at the scene. Campbell tells them that he heard the gunshot, went out to investigate, to look to possibly see what happened, and as he's doing this, he sees several Hispanic males running from the scene, along with an African-American female.
Roger says he didn't recognize any of the individuals he saw running from the home.
Unfortunately, the identity of these people was still a mystery at that point.
And to make matters worse for police, they don't find any useful evidence in their sweep of the home.
There were little forensic evidence at the scene of the crime, so the detectives didn't have much to go on.
It's not until the next morning, as Augusta residents begin celebrating the July 4th holiday, that detectives get their first big break in the case.
A man named Oscar White walks into the sheriff's department and wants to speak to someone about the case.
Oscar says he was there that night, but he had been too afraid to come forward until now.
The reason for Oscar's hesitancy gives detectives pause.
It was a party with an underage girl who was being paid to dance for them.
He knew he could get in big trouble for coming forward, but he also wanted to get justice for his friend Miguel.
Cops suspect the underage girl must be the same girl Roger Campbell saw running from the scene.
Oscar tells detectives that on the night of the murder, he and his friends had been having a great time until a sudden knock at the door changed everything.
Miguel Hernandez went to go answer it.
Once Hernandez opens the door, is confronted with this man.
The man had a gun and demanded money.
Hernandez says, "I'm not going to." A gunshot goes off, and it appears that Hernandez is hit, falls back into the floor and collapses.
Oscar said that once Miguel was shot, chaos erupted in the house. He said that everyone started screaming and running, and the robber ran away as well.
Detectives ask Oscar to provide them with the names of the other individuals at the party that night, including the underage dancer.
Oscar says the dancer was a friend of Miguel's, but he didn't know her name.
After they let Oscar leave, they contacted the other party goers to try to corroborate his statement.
The other men confirmed the incident appeared to be the result of a robbery gone wrong. But none of them are able to provide the name of the young dancer.
Something seems fishy about this to investigators. Either they really didn't know her name, or they were trying to cover themselves from getting in trouble from being at a party with an underage girl.
Either way, detectives are nowhere nearer to discovering the identity of the masked gunman. They blast the story out into the press, hoping someone will come forward that knows something.
They knew there had to be someone out there who knew what happened. They just had to find that person.
On July 12th, police are in luck.
They received a call from a neighboring law enforcement agency stating that one of the inmates had possible information on the murder of Miguel Hernandez.
The young man's name was Ethan Cruz. He was arrested in a neighboring city for unrelated crime.
Augusta detectives head to the facility where Ethan is being held to follow up on this promising lead. Ethan agrees to tell police what he knows if they'll reward him with a lighter sentence.
After consulting with prosecutors and investigators, They agreed to these terms. They were desperate at this point.
Ethan said that he had been hanging out with his friend, Brandon Steplight, when Brandon said he needed to get something off of his chest.
Ethan asked him what was wrong, and that's when Brandon said that he had shot and killed a Hispanic man a few weeks earlier.
According to Ethan, that's all Brandon wanted to say about the incident. He didn't really give him any more info.
When Ethan heard of Miguel Hernandez's murder, he knew that that must have been the guy that Brandon was talking about.
Armed with their first solid lead, investigators put out an APB for Brandon Steplight.
They were surprised to discover that the suspect was only 16 years old.
And police don't have to look far to find the teen.
They learned that Brandon Steplight had been living in the basement of his uncle's home.
Brandon stayed with his uncle. He had the house to himself more often because his uncle always worked.
Police move in to make an arrest. But Brandon isn't the only person they find at the home.
All I heard was, get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground.
Innovation usually looks something like this. But what if it didn't? What if it looked like a family truck that powers a family home? Or an ordinary drive made extraordinary? Let's change what innovation looks like. From floating around in your own personal space capsule up here to what we could build for all Americans down here.
As a DJ, I know all about customization. That's why I love Liberty Mutual. They customize my car insurance, so I only pay for what I need.
How about a throwback?
You got it.
I'll settle for something I can dance to.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
At Capella University, we know the world is pretty smart.
Wicked smart.
So we made FlexPath smart enough that you can finish the bachelor's degree in business you've started in 18 months for $18,000. That's smart. Capella University. Don't just learn smarter.
I told you I was going to win.
With Windows 11, gaming performs to another level.
Let's go!
And when it comes to streaming movies, we haven't really experienced any buffering. It's so cool that we'll have access to movie theater level quality pretty much anywhere.
Seeing it load up that quick, I was genuinely surprised.
I can't believe there's no lag. I didn't realize how bad you were until I got these really good graphics.
When I met Brandon that day, I was really just trying to change my life. I was trying to do a whole turnaround. So boys really went on my mind then. But Brandon wasn't paying attention. He didn't look our way. He was like, he meant business by cutting that grass. And I was like, I need a boyfriend like that. Because all the rest of them, they just thirsty. And they probably just don't want number one thing. So I said, I'm gonna talk to him. Never knew something bad was going to happen.
On July 13th, 2009, Augusta police have the home of 16-year-old murder suspect Brandon Steplight surrounded.
Brandon was wanted for the murder of 30-year-old Miguel Hernandez.
Brandon lived with his uncle, but his uncle was usually away at work during the day.
Officers order Brandon to come outside with his hands up.
Officers did not want to go inside and have him to face someone in a home, possibly armed.
The door slowly swings open, and police come face to face with Brandon. But they quickly realize he's not alone.
He had a young girl with him who identified herself as Brandon's girlfriend, 16-year-old Cassietta Felton.
All I heard was, get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground. When I looked at Brandon, Brandon looked like he wanted to run. I was like, don't run because they're gonna shoot you.
Cassietta saw how terrified Brandon was, and she could see on his face his desire to run. She begged and pleaded with him to follow the officer's instructions because she didn't want anything to happen to him.
Fortunately, Brandon heeded his girlfriend's warning.
Brandon surrendered himself peacefully and was taken into custody.
They cuffed Brandon up, put Brandon in the car, and then they got me.
Police asked Cassietta to come down to the station with them to answer some questions, and she agrees.
Since she seemed to be hiding out at Brandon's house with him, they figured he may have told her something about the shooting.
We got in the car, we went down to the police station. They placed me in one interrogation room, they placed him in one interrogation room.
Detectives tell Brandon Oscar's account of that night and also tell him that they believe that this was a premeditated robbery attempt.
To their surprise, Brandon admits to being there that night. He's ready to tell them everything.
Brandon is young, scared, and he just wants this to be over with. Brandon said that it all started when he had been hanging out with his girlfriend, Cassietta Felton, earlier that day.
They had been talking about doing a robbery for some quick cash and thought Miguel and his friends were the perfect targets.
Cassietta knew Miguel from her time living on the streets, and she also knew that his friends hired girls to dance at parties.
The plan was for Cassietta to distract the men by dancing for them, and then Brandon would bust in and hold them at gunpoint.
But things didn't go as planned.
Once Brandon got the signal from Cassietta, he approached the door, but it was locked.
Cassietta was supposed to leave the door unlocked so Brandon could walk right in, but she seemed to have forgotten. He decided he would just have to knock and hope that Cassietta would be the one to answer.
The thing is, Cassietta wasn't even in the room at that time.
Brandon began banging on the door, and seconds later, Miguel answered. But that's when all hell broke loose.
Suddenly, Miguel lunged at him, and he wasn't expecting that.
Steplight's statement to law enforcement was that he shot him in self-defense.
Brandon was so in shock that he fled the scene without taking any money, and without Cassietta.
He was so frightened that he essentially left her behind to fend for herself in all the chaos.
Detectives asked Brandon where he hid the weapon.
He says a couple days later, he sold the gun for $50 to a white male he only knew as Ghost.
Thanks to Brandon's statement, investigators now know that his girlfriend, Cassietta Felton, is the mysterious dancer from the party that night. They're eager to speak with her next, to see if her story lines up with Brandon's.
When they came to me, they asked me what was going on. So I told them I wasn't talking without appearing in the garden. So they stepped out, the police stepped out of the interrogation room. I guess called my parents, that's what they say. And this thing I know, they come back in the interrogation room with me. I still don't know what's going on with Brandon because we in separate interrogation rooms.
That's when investigators drop a bombshell on Cassietta.
They revealed to her that Brandon has told them everything.
They was trying to use against me, oh, Brandon said you did it, Brandon said this.
But would Cassietta's version of events be the same?
Like, y'all actually saying that I did this when I didn't do this?
Police knew someone wasn't telling them the truth.
On July 13th, 2009, 16-year-old Cassietta Felton is being interrogated by Augusta police for her connection to the shooting death of 30-year-old Miguel Hernandez.
Cassietta's boyfriend, Brandon Steplight, has already admitted to being the shooter. but he claims that she was in on the whole thing with him and helped him plan it out.
Cassietta finds herself in an interrogation room with detectives telling her that she set up Miguel to be robbed and murdered.
When detectives tell Cassietta that her man has thrown her under the bus, she's in shock.
They asked me like, we know you did it, and stuff like that. Getting smart, they talking to me any kind of way. So finally I just get frustrated. Like, y'all actually saying that I did this when I didn't do this? I kept saying I didn't do it.
Instead, Cassietta tells an entirely different story.
According to Cassietta, there was no plan to rob anyone. She does admit that her and Brandon were in need of some quick cash, but robbery was never in their plan.
Cassietta says Brandon knew she used to dance for money when she was living on the streets, and it gave him an idea.
Brandon tells Cassietta, well, what if you start dancing again?
Cassietta really didn't want to go back to this situation, but she was aware that this was an easy way for her to be able to attain the money that they needed.
She had danced for some men before at this apartment, and she felt like she could go back and do it again. She didn't really want to do it, but if he felt that they really needed it, then she would do it.
Brandon was her everything, and she wanted to show up and protect him like he had protected her. So she reluctantly agreed. On July 3rd, she went there to see if there was a chance that she could dance again for money.
The men accepted Cassietta's offer and invited her inside.
There was only one person that I knew in that apartment, which was Miguel. So when I went and danced, it was just supposed to be me dancing, getting my money, and leaving.
But nothing that evening would go as planned.
So everything was fine. Everything was okay. Miguel went to the bathroom. When Miguel went to the bathroom, one of the men had touched me a certain way. And I asked the man to stop touching me. He was very aggressive and mean with it.
All of the sexual abuse and the exploitation that she experienced on the streets as a child came flooding back.
Cassietta left the room and immediately called Brandon.
And I told Brandon, like, listen, I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel right. Something is just not right.
Seconds later, Cassietta heard a ruckus coming from the living room.
All I heard was English and Spanish, and I just heard a whole bunch of commotion. Then I heard one gunshot.
Cassietta says she rushed back into the living room to see what happened.
People are yelling and screaming and running.
My friend Miguel is laying on the floor. I just kept telling him to breathe, and I just wanted him to live.
Even though she wanted to stay with Miguel and get him help, she got swept up with the others. Everyone is scared, no one knows who has a gun or who might get shot next, so Cassietta runs.
I left, then the next thing I know, on the way going out, I could hear the sirens.
Cassietta ran all the way home.
When I got home, I was covered in sweat, tears, and everything. Like, I was just so scared.
And she was surprised to see Brandon there, waiting for her.
We were talking, and I was like, I was there in that apartment. I was like, that was my friend Miguel that got hurt. I don't know if he survived or he died. And then that's when Brandon started saying, like, I'm scared, I'm scared and I don't know what to do. So at that point, I'm thinking in my head, like, we were both there the whole time.
That's when it really sunk in that Brandon was the shooter.
July of 2009. Augusta detectives are sitting down with 16-year-old Cassietta Felton. who's being questioned for her part in a robbery gone wrong that led to the death of 30-year-old Miguel Hernandez.
Casietta's boyfriend, Brandon Steplight, has already admitted to being the shooter. But her story is pretty different than his.
Brendan said that he and Caseyetta had come up with this elaborate robbery plot, but Caseyetta denies this.
She claimed she had no idea anyone was going to be robbed, let alone shot.
I thought that I was gonna be able to get there and dance and they pay me my money and I leave. But it didn't happen like that.
Casilleta tells detectives that she was completely taken aback when she learned what her man had done.
I was young, I was scared, and I was mostly hurt because someone had lost their life over nothing. I felt like real bad. Like, I even feel bad to this day now because I feel like I could have saved him. Miguel wasn't supposed to die.
The next day, Casilletta's mother could tell something was wrong.
I was in my room. I was kind of like distanced once that happened. So it's like when the mother they know their child, like when something is going on. She came in the room. She was like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay, Mama.
Casilleta decided to be honest with her mother about what happened.
She said, I know you didn't kill nobody. She said, but I was wrong place at the wrong time and just made a really messed up decision. She said, just know that I love you. You're my child. But this situation here, I can't bring you out of. She said, I'm gonna be there the whole way, but I can't bring you out of this situation. She said, so just be prepared for it. And then she walked out.
Not knowing what else to do, Casilleta says she and Brandon decided to lay low at his uncle's house until police arrived 10 days later.
I was scared, I was afraid. I didn't know what to do because I felt like me and Brandon was gonna be gone for the rest of our life.
Despite Casilletta's insistence that she was an innocent bystander in the crime, police charge her with first-degree murder.
When the story came out that Cassie got arrested and she'll be going to prison, it was hard. It was like, we're just gonna be here to support her and do what we can.
I had 5 charges on me. I had first-degree murder. I had aggravated assault. I had firearm during the commission of a crime. I had armed robbery, and I had attempted armed robbery.
Brandon Steplight was also charged with the same exact offenses as Casilleta.
Casilleta struggles to adapt to life behind bars as she awaits trial.
As her case makes its way through court, Casilleta turns 17. That means she's transferred out of the juvenile facility and into the county jail with adult inmates.
She is afraid for her future. She doesn't know what's going to happen to Brandon, and he has been everything to her. But she's also grieving the loss of Miguel, who was her friend.
My first lawyer was a woman. She was rude. She really didn't care. Every day she comes to visit me, she would tell me, oh, if you find guilty, you're gonna be looking at life plus 45. My mother's sitting there crying. So finally, I just lost it. I was like, I don't want you as a lawyer. I will find another lawyer. And I told my mama to stop crying. It's gonna be all right as long as we got God in our lives.
But was everything really going to be all right for Casilleta? With her story differing from Brandon's, It would be up to the court to decide who was really telling the truth.
She was facing serious time. She might be spending what are supposed to be the best years of her life in prison.
2 black kids, somebody died. All they worry about is sentencing somebody, putting them away. I did not shoot Miguel. I didn't want Miguel to be shot. I just wanted him to live throughout the situation. Miguel wasn't supposed to die. It still like eats up my conscience. I just want God to forgive me. I want Miguel to forgive me. I just want everybody to forgive me. His family to forgive me of what happened to him, because it wasn't supposed to happen.
July 2009. 16-year-old Cassietta Felton and her boyfriend, Brandon Steplight, have both been charged with the murder of 30-year-old Miguel Hernandez.
Investigators decide to charge both of the teenagers as adults. Brandon has admitted to investigators' version of the event, that this whole thing is a result of a robbery gone wrong.
Cassietta, however, has told a different story.
According to Cassietta, there was never a plan to rob, and she had no idea Brandon was going to shoot Miguel.
Prosecutors aren't buying Cassietta's version of events.
Once prosecutors had the opportunity to compare the various witness stories and statements, they believe that Cassietta went to the party knowing that Brandon intended on robbing the guests. And to them, that makes her equally culpable in the eyes of the law.
State's attorneys decide to offer Cassietta a deal.
He came to me, he said, well, the DA want to drop all your charges and just offer you attempted armed robbery. The judge will decide 1 through 25 to sentence you.
But in order for Cassietta to get the reduced sentence, she has to plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter.
So I was just so tired and exhausted and just ready to get it over with. I had already been sitting in the county for like a year and some change. I talked to my mother. My mother said, well, Cassietta is better than having first-degree murder and all the other charges. So I went on and took the voluntary manslaughter. I really didn't have no choice.
Brandon also makes a deal with prosecutors and agrees to plead guilty to first-degree murder.
He was in court with me. We stand up to get sentenced. They placed us in front of the judge. The judge said, Cassietta Felton, read the charges. I give you a 15-12. Then he turned to Brandon and said, Brandon, Giselle Steplight, I give you 30 with parole.
To this day, Cassietta denies the version of events Brandon told investigators.
2 black kids, somebody died. All they worry about is sentencing somebody, putting them away, and that's it.
She believes that Brandon was under duress while being questioned by investigators, and that's why he admitted to everything.
Well, Brandon told me why he confessed. He said that he made a mistake in his life. It wasn't on purpose. He didn't mean for that to happen. He said, I need to be a man and own up to my responsibilities and do what I need to do.
Once in prison, Cassietta continued to grieve the loss of her friend, her freedom, and her man.
So when it came to the beginning of my sentence, I stayed in trouble all the time. And when you go to prison, you have to defend yourself. You have to fight, because if you don't, they're never gonna respect you.
She spent most of her first 6 years in lockdown.
But after those 6 years behind bars, Cassietta realized she needed to make a change.
That's who brought me through it. That's who got me through it. It was God.
Cassietta decided to stop fighting and start pursuing her GED.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna enroll myself in GED class. It'll be helpful for me because I really need it, you know, for myself. And then maybe when I get home, I could teach my brothers and sisters, you know.
She would email me, good morning, I done read my Bible, I'm getting my GED, I done passed my classes. And when she told me, I run to my mama, look, Cassie said she didn't pass her English and her math.
Thanks to her newfound good behavior, Cassietta was released from prison a few years early, on September 14th, 2020.
Cassietta was released from prison 2 weeks before her 28th birthday.
I did almost 11 and a half years in prison. When I first got released that day, I got me a pack of Newports, got me a Snicker bar, an ice cream. I laid back on the concrete. I fired the cigarette up, and I was just looking at the sky, just crying. I was like, I'm free. I just kept saying I'm free.
Today, Cassietta is working and spending time with her family.
I have had 2 jobs since I've been out, and right now I'm just really focused on me, adapting back to society, getting used back, you know, to the real world.
Her life has changed marvelously, and everything is on the right track.
As Cassietta moves on with her life, she is staying out of trouble, but still communicates with Brandon.
At 16, I really loved Brandon, and I still love Brandon.
She's still in contact with him while he's serving his sentence, and she hopes that one day they can be together again.
Brandon was the one person that protected her, that showed up for her. He was there for her when she didn't have any money, when she didn't have anything to eat. And seeing that he needed money, she wanted to be there for him just like he had been there for her.
If I could turn back the heads of time, I wouldn't even been there. I would have just stayed at home.
If anyone sees Cassietta's story, I want them to understand that love is powerful and love can make you do some crazy things.
I hope that younger girls, they learn to stay away from negativity, stay away from violence, stay away from people that are not good for them, because it's easy to get in trouble and it's hard to get out of.
When you put your full trust in someone, it can be a slippery slope. Especially when you're young, it's hard to know what's best and to follow your conscience. But if you don't remember to listen closely, you could end up in a dark place you never expected.